Hello, Radiant One, and welcome to Spiritual Business with Mariaestela, the show and podcast for soul-driven, heart-based spiritual entrepreneurs, business owners, and Magdalenes rising, ready to expand and wanting to lead with love in business and life. I am your host, spiritual business coach, mentor, catalyst, and facilitator, Mariaestela, and it is my deep honor, my great pleasure, and joy to share this episode with you. If you feel the deep stirrings of something new asking to be born through you, go to mariaestela.com/DCIA to download the free guide, Divine Clarity and Inspired Action, that I've created for you. Divine Clarity and Inspired Action will help you to connect deeply with your divine feminine essence of gnosis, wisdom, knowledge, and intuition, as well as activate your divine masculine essence of action, creation, expansion, and building, so that you may experience the satisfaction, the joy, and the liberation that comes from bringing to life that which you are here to birth, while being, doing, and living your soul's divine purpose. On my website, you will also find show notes, transcripts, and previous episodes. It's funny because for some reason, whenever I start recording, there's always giggles and laughter and joy and smiles that happen for some reason. And that is, that is not what this podcast is all about. It's very serious. It's very supposed to be no laughing and no, I'm just kidding. It is filled with joy and laughter and smiles.
Yeah.
And Aliza, you are going to be the very, very first guest on the Spiritual Business Show and podcast, where I'm doing this with a guest. I've done loads of episodes on my own, but as I sat in inquiry over the summer, I was being very clearly told that it was time to invite people on, because I want to ultimately just inspire. I want to empower. I want to uplift. I want to give you, the listener or the viewer, an opportunity to find yourself in these stories, to give you, like I said, hope, empowerment, inspiration, and all that. And you choosing to be here with me today is just an amazing opportunity for those who are going to be listening in or watching in. But I have talked enough, and I want to ask you, first of all, to start out by, would you introduce yourself?
Yes.
Tell us who you are, tell us what you do, and tell us who you're here to serve and who you do serve currently. Because I know, but not everyone knows.
Well, thank you for having me on your show. I am very honored and very humbled to be here. It is definitely a joy. So thank you. So my name is Aliza Rose. I am the business mystic. And basically what I do is I meld, very much similar to what you do, the mundane with the magical, but the construct in which I do it is through business. Because, and this ties into who I serve currently and who I call to me, our folks, it's like when a lot of us are being awakened to our gifts, and we're getting the courage and the tools necessary and the skills to go out and share it. And then not only that, but get monetarily compensated so we can make a living, put roof over our heads, and feed our children. We're definitely changing the paradigm with that. So on a practical level, it's teaching copywriting, it's branding, it's the nuts and bolts of running a business, the practical, boring stuff. But on the back end, what I really do is help people feel, number one, comfortable to be seen, and to release them from this feeling that they need to legitimatize, I don't know if I'm saying that right, their spiritual gifts. Like,
Yes.
Don't left brain a right brain thing. It's kind of what I'm doing. So who do I work with? I work with business owners, whether they are spiritual-based business owners, they are in the creative, or they're in the technical, mundane business, but they're trying, like a product, and they're trying to bring it to market, but they don't want to lose that part of their soul in that process. So So that is what I do in a nutshell.
And that doesn't even, I mean, I can hear you on a physical plane with my ears kind of level, but it does, for me, that doesn't even do justice in terms of the power that you bring to the work that you do. To me, there is such a strong resonance and current and truth in the way that you show up and in the way that you do your things. And I will, in the show notes, I will include links to Aliza's website and also to your Instagram account where you show up as well in that way. I mean, you are someone that I would say is very out and proud, woo, like spiritual. To me, woo, like I know for some, woo woo is like a derogative, like, but for me, I'm very proud of being like I am.
That's what we call it. That's the word that everyone understands.
Yeah. I call myself woo as fuck because that's who I am. But I also, for you, I know that you, as far as I understand, you come out of a family where it's been spiritual from day one, but you haven't necessarily been out and proud about it. So would you share your story from the mundane into the magical?
Yes.
From mundane to spiritual, metaphysical, and all that. So you were born, and then what happened?
So there was what? Okay. So basically, I was raised, I'm Filipino, that's my ethnicity, and I was raised Catholic. So there's a lot to that statement within itself, because Filipinos as a whole, they're very one with their nature. They see spirit in a lot of things, and then they were colonized and became Catholic. It's a bloody history. But basically, when I was practicing that Christian faith, doing altar work, working with a feminine figure, Mother Mary, she wasn't regaled to the background. She was at the forefront. She's like this very human experience of a divine being. Rosaries, altars, candles, it was so natural. And then I go out in the real world and realize other Christian people did not practice that way. So it was, and it happened at a time when, a person is searching for a lot of things, or confirmation of self. That's your teenage years, very formidable. So 12, very similar to you, what you revealed to me before we started. 12 years old was right when that started to really come forward. That must be the magical age. So going through that experience and realizing and being called a lot of really not nice names really kind of took a number on me, and made me do some soul searching as much as I could do at that age, to be like, well, why aren't people doing this more? Like, it was not uncommon for, say, you go to church on Sunday, you pray, you do your thing, you do your good works, and then maybe you go throw some cards down to find out, are you going to do good on your test, again, as a teenager, or on a more serious level, is someone going to get healed, or are they going to get married?
Yeah.
So I never understood why there was such a separation. To me, it just seems so natural.
Yeah.
But clearly, as we all know, there are people who have very clear, have defined readings of what spirituality should look like, and maybe they don't mix with other types, whatever. Yeah. So that was the beginning of the process. And then I came up through the ranks through healthcare. So very practical, very scientific driven. But if there's one thing that I've learned from being in that industry, is that, science can only take you so far, and then spirit carries you the rest of the way.
Yes.
So all these Venn diagrams in my life out of the womb just kept showing up. And then when I actually made the leap to becoming my own business, becoming a business owner, an entrepreneur online, I worked with a business coach. She was very famous. I won't say famous. She's very well known. And I remember I wrote up my little bio and I put intuitive. Like, I'm just intuitive. I just have a sense. And she's like, you cannot put the word intuitive on your website because no one will pay you what you're asking for. No one will believe you. No one will take you seriously. That was her critique. And so and this is 2012. off 12, all that number. And that was like, so I felt a lot of resistance to that. Like, well, but my intuition is what has made me successful outside of the healthcare industry when I branched off on my own. It is what has made me successful and being able to command, $10,000, copywriting and brand strategy proposals. That is what has made me money. Why wouldn't I put that forward? So it started this journey. So what ended up happening was I had to separate the Business Mystic from my other company so that they could live peacefully. So the transition from mundane to magical wasn't of a solidification. It was giving them their own space, like 2 different eyebrows. I thought they were 1 eyebrow, but they were not. They were 2, but they're on the same face.
Yeah.
So in the context of your show, that is the transition of how it happened.
Yeah.
Does that help?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And the funny thing for me is today, I could not consider working with anyone in any capacity if they did not consider themselves to be spiritual.
Yes.
In any way, shape, or form. And that goes whether it is a copywriter, whether it is an accountant, whether it is a Facebook ads, whatever, if it's in whatever shape. And that's not to say that there's anything wrong, because I don't want to stuff, I'm not trying to stuff my spirituality or even spirituality in any way, shape, or form down anyone's throats. I think it's a personal journey and it's our own expansion. But for me, where I'm at, I wouldn't hire anyone who didn't have those words on their website at all. So yes, it makes total sense. And I'm just surprised that because I do spiritual business coaching. And it's not something that I wouldn't say either or. I wouldn't say, oh, you can't have it or you should have it. I will ask you to show up truthfully. And if that's what is your truth, then I would ask you to show up as that. Yeah. When was the moment when you realized that, I can actually be both? Like, I can actually be mundane and magical. I can actually be spiritual and not have it be this very, flowy purple garments and, frolicking cross, the whole, what spiritual means. And I'm spiritual as fuck, as I said, but I'm also very strategic and down to earth and skeptical and all of those things. I think spiritual people are some of the most skeptical.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
So my question is, when did you realize, I can be both? I can actually incorporate both.
Well, I was living a double life. Okay. So, 9 to 5, I was working in healthcare, saving lives and all that great stuff. And then I was certain evenings and on the weekends working at local metaphysical shops as a reader. I know. I'm like, oh God, how many lives have I lived and died within this one alone, right? Story of a person's life. So
yes.
That's probably every spiritual person right now. And so there was this woman who was there and she was like itemizing all her stuff, what she bought, tarot cards, crystals, incense, oils, tips. She would itemize it. And I was like, what are you doing? I was like, what are you doing? I was very curious. She was like, oh, well, I have a business license. I itemize my items, because my tarot reading is my business. And it just blew my mind. Like, you're reporting to the government your taxes on your readings. She's like, yeah, this is a legitimate business. And that's started it for me. It was the fact that she was doing a very mundane thing on a spiritual business and she was legitimizing it.
Yes.
And that was the start of it. Like, oh. So then, it took a while. And then when I made the leap to online, that's when it was like, you know what? Why not? Like, what is the worst that's going to happen? Someone doesn't buy from me. So what? I'm sure somebody will.
Yeah.
Someone will resonate. It was very lonely coming out of that boon of the 2008 to 2012 when online businesses and the blog started to really take precedent.
Yeah.
It was really lonely being out there because you just didn't know you didn't understand traffic. You didn't understand website. We didn't have any of the stuff that we have today in terms of knowledge base. So I was like, okay, well, why not? Why not? And so I tested this theory. I had taken someone had talked about pricing. We had a pricing workshop, and they said, you could put whatever you want on your website and nobody will care. But to the person who needs your service, they won't care either because they're going to buy it. Yep. So I put a $1 million offer up on my website. Like, I'll do everything for $1 million. Like, I literally put it up there, put the PayPal account. It was hilarious. Or the link. And then it taught me, like, you know what? It's my actions are the ones that are creating the results. And it's me, like, bringing in the presence of mind and spirit in here. And if I could put a $1 million up on my website, why can't I say that I'm intuitive? Why can't I say that I'm spiritual?
Yes.
Screw it.
Yes.
And there you go.
Screw it.
I know, it's like rebellion.
Yes. Yes. And it's also, it's also very inspiring. And because I can hear that there are people who are either watching or listening to this either now or in the future. Well, it will be in the future, but it will be in the now. So where either they will have heard that from someone, or they will have that ongoing as a thought within that you can't use those words, intuitive or spiritual. And for me, it was the tension between spiritual and business. It's like, right. What? You can be a spiritual business coach? Like, what? That was for me. Like, Mike, what's my next question? Oh, so what was your, what was your biggest lesson in that?
My biggest lesson was legitimize the structure, but don't legitimize the skills.
Ooh.
Because we all, you have to legitimize your website. You got to get a host. You got to get hosting, a URL. You got to do, okay, that's legitimate. But don't try to legitimize or justify what you're putting in that space. I'm a reader. I'm a healer. I'm a creator. I am a product maker. I'm a whatever. Like, you are sovereign in yourself. I know you talk about this in your other universe, but you're sovereign to yourself. If you acknowledge that you are there, then you're legitimate. You're alive. No one else needs to give that to you. So if you're a psychic reader and you do art and you do painting great. You're good.
Yeah.
Pay your taxes, but you don't have to justify why you're doing it. Yeah. Why you're putting a price tag on your skills.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Oh, it makes so much. And I'm like, oh, because I want to hear your take on this, because it ties in so well in terms of adding a price tag to your services. Mm-hmm. Because there seems to be this vow of poverty for so many of us. I'm going to say us because I went through it as well. In terms of, and also this idea that if you have a spiritual business, you're not supposed to be charging money for it. You're supposed to be giving it just away. What do you have to say about that?
Okay, well, I think it comes from a couple different things. I think it's one, because when you're coming up through the ranks, we don't have really good role models that show us that you can, again, we don't have really good role models that have said, hey, I've charged for my services. The traditional path was, you're going on the speaker circuit, Oprah loves you, you're on her couch, or you got a book deal. It's very traditional avenues of that, but we don't see it on the ground level of, and again, being an online business owner, this is still the wild, wild west for everyone. We're still discovering the different ways we're using the internet, being online. So I did struggle with that. So what I came up to, my thoughts about it is, it's okay to practice. It is okay to hone and refine your craft and your skill when it comes to ritual making, to your art, to putting together your stuff. But there comes a time where you need to cross over and get paid. It comes from you letting go of that need to have someone say, you're good enough to charge. You're good enough now to charge. You've graduated school. You can now go out in the world, get your little resume, your CV, and go pound the pavement for a job. You don't need to do that.
No.
You don't. my advice or my thought on it is recognize when you are past the point of practicing your skill and your art and it's time to get paid.
Yeah.
And even if it freaks you out to charge $5, you charge the $5 because you're telling the universe you're willing to accept it.
Yes.
You know what I mean? We have to start small. It's pie in the sky to think, I'm going to start charging $5,000 out the gate, and you've never sold anything. You are going to freak yourself out.
Yes. And that's where, because I see this so very often as well, and I totally agree on the maybe not $5, but I do. I do agree on the whole, because if and that's where some of the the myth in terms of you just gotta charge, like you said, like $5,000 and blah 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 for whatever. And the problem with that is that if your current mindset or your energy of where you're at right now is too far away from that point, there's going to be too much fear for you to you can't close the gap. So it's charge a little bit more, 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 till you get to that point of where, okay, this is where my service is. And it's not, it's not to say, because I know that there are people who will charge exorbitant prices for something, and that's not what I mean either. I did a rant earlier in the podcast about charging what you're worth, because I don't think that we can ever charge what we're worth, because our worth
what if
is
you feel
infinite.
like crap that day, so you can charge $0?
Yeah. And it's like, no. So it's about, I call it allowing yourself to expand from within, like expand in love and dissolving the fear of coming up against, what do I charge, and what do I charge, and then what do I charge? And then, I love that. And where do you think, because one of the lessons that I've really had to learn this year has been about abundance, and the ease with which it now arrives, not just in terms of money and wealth and that, but in terms of other things that very easily manifest in my life. And one of the barriers that I've come up against has been don't want to say it's a barrier, but it's been like okay, I'm allowed, it's allowed to be this easy and simple, and I'm allowed to make this much this easy kind of thing. That's been one of the things that I've been coming up against and moving through, and it brought me down for a while, because I was like, I couldn't, the vibration of that was difficult for me. So where do you think that comes from in an overall general, I don't even know if you have an answer to this. I'm asking a very broad question.
No, we're having fun. Yeah.
But you have such a connection to the universe and to the guides and to the spirits. I'm just wondering, where does that come from?
Well,
the idea that we're not allowed to make money as spiritual service people, whatever we want to call it.
Well, my answer is twofold. So forgive me if you will indulge me in answering this.
Yes.
The first part of it with the money is I do think that there is a spiritual past to it, where energetically, whether you believe in past lives or not, it's just, a lot of us are hearkening to days when we were expressing our magical or spiritual abilities, to days where the trade was, okay, I'm going to help heal you or help your cows or your family. And you, in trade, you give me a bag of chestnuts or firewood or kindling. And we've kind of changed what the currency looks like now. So, but we haven't quite made that leap forward that currency is now money. It's a PayPal invoice being paid. We're kind of like, it's still the same, but it's just different now. I'm buying my own kindling, there's that. So I feel like energetically, we just have to, as a whole, we just have to see that the currency isn't an exposure. Okay. It's not an exposure. It's baby. Baby. Really? Yes. Testimonials are wonderful. Getting on my email. But if if you're in a place to, and you say you want this, then pay me, type of thing. So I think, and then within that, there is technical, like there's strategies and techniques and just information to know how to handle and perceive things. Of course, it's like you have to learn how to crawl before you walk. Okay, so that's part one. So I think we're just clearing that. And the second thing is, I'm going to bring up something, and I hope your listeners and your watchers don't upset me or are upset with me for saying this, but the law of attraction has not done us very good in some respects.
Nope.
Because it, if we can imagine it, then it can happen. Truly, like good or bad, backwards and forwards, it can happen. So the misalignment I feel that happens is, don't law attraction the heck out of the result. You already know what the results look. You need a law of attraction, the actions to take it to get to the result.
Yes.
Which is why we don't make money, because we're like, oh, I'm going to, do my affirmations. I'm going to do all this. It's like, okay, cool. But did you write your blog post? Did you tell your people you had something for sale? Did you show up to the meeting and introduce yourself to your local association? Like, law of attraction, those things, like doing the boring stuff, the editing, the putting together, like, that's why we never get to the point where we're getting paid, because by the time we all this energy spent on the result should have been right here in the middle, which is the 80% of what will get us the results. You know what I'm saying? Like,
yes. And I am chest bumping and high fiving you across the
internet here.
Like, yes. The thing is, so they're like, what people forget is that the law of attraction is just one of the laws. Like law of one mind, the law of duality, the law of action, the law of vibration and frequency. There are all these laws, and I think that the quote unquote problem with the law of attraction has been, for some, it has seemed like I am just going to sit down and meditate my way into this. If you can think it, you can get it. And on a metaphysical, spiritual level, I totally get that. Totally get that. The problem is, most of us, at least not me yet, we're not spiritual masters that are able to pull things out of the thin air.
Yeah.
Unless we do the work on ourselves. And in terms of manifestation, I told you this before coming on. For me, I had the website, I had the newsletter, I had the podcast, I had everything that you're supposed to have, but I didn't have the energy work. I didn't have the alignment, which is, I've been using the energy alignment method, and that to me was what opened the floodgates. The aligning of all the layers of my auric field, my head, heart, and hara, my chakras, my energy, working on that, aligning and removing the resistance, getting into the flow, so that the law of attraction can work for me. But it didn't come by me sitting down and just being like, oh. Right.
Metaphysics means unseen law.
Yes.
So there's, gravity sucks. That's right. It's why you're so down to earth, because you're stuck here because of gravity. Like, there's all these different things to it. So I guess in a very mundane way of saying it is, if you could sit there all day and think of a sandwich, but you're going to starve unless you either order it and someone brings it to you, or you get up and make it.
Yes.
So,
or, I do think that there is an option of getting to the point of spiritual mastery where you're able to pull it out of the thin air.
Yes.
If anyone wants to sit there and do that, and fine. I just, for me, that has not been the case yet. But what I will say is that when I do align my energy, when I do take inspired action, I do find that things that I think about somehow just occur in my life. And it's like, oh, but it would not have happened had I not done all of the work that I've done.
Yes.
That's not to say that it has to be a struggle or that it has to be hard at all, but that is usually what awakens us. It's like, ooh, there's something that's not right here. I want to change that. So, okay. So thank you for that. I was like, yes, because that way we also get to touch upon the whole law of attraction thing.
It's become the glamour child of metaphysical work. Unfortunately, not
No, I'm not. Like, I love Abraham and Esther and Hicks, who's brought that to life. The wisdom that they share is so very, very powerful. The only problem is if you use it to sit down and not act upon what you're being called to do. And I also find, because, you know, in the work that I do as a spiritual business coach, a lot of, for me, is about activating your divine masculine. That's what I call the divine masculine, activating, engaging that, igniting that, making sure you take the steps. And that's when you see that's when you align your divine feminine and your divine masculine, that's when the pathway begins to open up.
Well, it's a sign of faith. It's a sign of faith in the universe. You're like, I'm taking the steps towards, because I already know the result is there. So I'm having faith that I'm walking towards it, and it's going to be there because I'm, you know.
Yeah, exactly. And so thank you for that. What has for you been the biggest struggle as a spiritual entrepreneur?
It's very similar to what yourself and many of your watchers and listeners have walked. It's, one, it's like, is anyone going to buy my stuff? Is someone going to buy me stuff? Am I going to get haters? You know, that's a real thing when you're out there on the internet. It's just trolls and seagulls and haters. You know, they're all just out there. I think too is because we have a lot of empathy, or there's a lot of highly sensitive people out there. It's like, oh, I don't want to disappoint. You know, I don't want to put something out there and it not work, or it doesn't translate well, or someone just doesn't feel like they got what they needed or what they paid for, type of thing. Those were the struggles that I had. Perfectionism, which leads to procrastination and indecision, analysis paralysis, it all goes back. I got a Virgo rising, so it's ridiculous. Those are definitely some of the struggles. And, and then the typical stuff, shiny object syndrome, life showing up, and just having the bumps and bruises of being a business owner. People who don't pay you and they're supposed to pay you. You're maybe short on some things, and you're robbing Peter to pay Paul. Definitely have had those experiences as well. But for me, I think the biggest thing would be disappointing anyone who comes into my space and not getting what they expected or what I promised to deliver. That's a big one.
Which, from a client perspective, I can assure you won't ever be able to. I know that I've set you to this. I'm like, are you like, I feel like you're over delivering here. I've called you out on that a few times. I'm not sure that. So yes, I hear you. What has been the most powerful lesson for you?
Oh my gosh. The most powerful lesson is that let it be easy. Let it be easy. Let it be easy. Let it be easy. Why does it need to be struggle? Why do I need to be hero that slays dragons and goes over rosebriar bushes to save it? I don't need to do that. I just need to go into town, get my loaf of bread, and make my sandwich and go home. Why do I need to have this journey just to get there? The drama does not serve me.
No.
Let
it be easy.
Let it be easy. We're letting things go.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And now I have another question.
Yeah.
And that is, if like it's about your future and where you're wanting to go, but I want to phrase it in a way that I would ask, what advice would your future self give to your current self in terms of where you're at right now?
Okay. On a practical level, I would probably say finish your opt-in, but don't stress over it. It's a practical business one. Just get it done. Like, don't get all into production. This isn't a, superstar Lady Gaga TV show. Just get it done. Don't worry. You'll fix it later if there's any problems. Practical level. On a bigger, more philosophical level, I would probably tell my future self would tell my past self this, is you don't have to have everything figured out all at once. That's akin to trying to have one meal for the rest of your life. It will not work. So, and, just finish the one thing that you're starting. That's such a hard thing for us because we're so distracted. So just finish, touch it once and finish it and then move on. You can always go back and update, retweak, but just finish it. It's that simple. Make it easy.
I can hear that there's definitely someone who needed to hear that. So I just want to say that if you're out there listening or watching and this resonates with you, you're the one, like, that was for you. Go finish it and make it easy. This is gonna go into, like, this is like an Oprah question. What do you wish? Like, I don't know if this is an Oprah question or not, but what do you wish you'd known? What do you wish you'd known? What do you know now that you wish you'd known sooner?
Oh my gosh. How long do we have? I would have told myself, goodness. Okay. Looking back, if I had started, I would have told myself, be wary of instant or out of the box solutions. Mm-hmm. You know, for a practical level, because, you know, there are a lot of people, probably in where we're at, who are what I call like the Chernenberg coaching, we'll do everything for you refugees. You know, you don't need to pay an exorbitant amount of money when you're first starting to have success, because success comes from effort and action, not from someone. You can get templates, but if you don't apply them and you don't, you know, I wish I had learned that lesson.
Yes.
Because those financial decisions had impacted when the clarity came. You're like, oh, dang it.
Yes.
You know, that's one thing. That's a bump in the road I think a lot of business owners go through, but it's unnecessary at this point.
Yes.
If I could say that. Another thing I would say is it matters to you, but in the end, it really doesn't matter. Like, because you will obsess and perfect over minor details that really in the end don't really matter, because the example I'm going to give this is because you will buy from someone that you connect with, and their PDFs could look like crap, or they're very simple, but they mean so much to you. They've helped you move forward in so many ways. And then you could go and the other spectrum and have all these things being thrown at you, and it was just like, you know, I could have looked this up myself.
Yes.
You know?
Yeah.
So, it's not to dissuade anyone one way or another, but it's just to let you know that, you know, it's not a mountaintop. It's just a molehill. Yes. Don't die on it.
Yes. Yes. I love, like, so one of the whole reasons why I started the Spiritual Business Podcast and like show and podcast, and why I've now expanded into these conversations, is because I know that not everyone can pay for my services, but I still want to be able to share that wisdom, that knowledge, that experience, that how to, that whatever. And then, you know, whenever you're ready, you can quote unquote come work with me if that's what you want to, or maybe not. Maybe you'll just take what I put out there and apply that, because if I can support that in any way, shape, or form, then I'm just that.
Do you want to talk about pricing and like get into that nerdy part of it?
Oh, you do? Do you want to?
Yeah, let's do it. Yeah, let's do it. I mean, you know, dealer's delight here.
Go ahead. Like, what you got?
Let's do it, because I guess your people need to hear this too.
Yes, go ahead.
So here's my thoughts on it, and this is so regardless if you're a baby business owner, emerging, or established like you and I are. Yeah. You know, going back to the beginning of our conversation, you got to know the difference between practicing and refining, giving your service, AKA for free, while you're learning your skill and your trade, to getting paid for your services. You got to know the difference. But so it's based on that. But here's the thing: I don't ever discount my services either. Like, I do ask a relatively handsome fee for my time. Yep. But I can choose. I don't discount them, but I can choose to gift them if I want to. So if you want to make a conscious decision to gift to someone, that's your prerogative. Yes. But when you create what you're doing, free resources or like courses that people can take that are PDF, audio version, file, whatever, you can discount and do whatever you want with those, because the effort's already been put in there and it's going to reach you farther. Yes. So that's a pricing strategy I think will help your listeners be able to see, like, what can I discount? Yes. What can I give? Yes. What do I never discount?
Exactly. Yes. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
If it's 3D, like you and me, that's time we can't get back. But if it's 2D, like a file, you can play around with the pricing.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
So that's my 2 cents.
Yeah. And that's amazing. And that's the thing. The thing is, because, you know, we're recording and we're online, and it's probably about an hour of our time, but that means that after this, I have about an hour, if not more, probably 2 to 3 to 4 hours putting it together, putting it up on a website. I have a website that I pay for. So I'm actually paying for you to have this wisdom and knowledge put in your hands. And people think it's free, which I get, but it's not free. I'm actually paying for you to be able to access it. And I don't come because I do this freely and willingly, because I do want to share, and because there's limits to how many people I can serve. And then you can go into group work and all that, but that's not for me right now. And this is just the way that I've chosen to give back. So even though I do also charge what some would call a hefty sum for my services, I'm also putting money back into the universe, or into the expansion and growth of the whole, hopefully, those who listen to it. That is thank you so much for sharing that.
It's true.
Yeah. That's a whole nother way that I hadn't viewed it. And I can hear people's minds being like, oh, what? Yeah.
Because I do daily, I do daily readings.
Yes.
You know, I do daily readings, and I like put up stuff, and I like create resources, and I'm like there's pre and post production of the content you create, right? Like that we have to put out there.
Yeah.
So I don't, that's how you get your name out there, right? Is our content is the stuff of getting people to know us, because we can't meet in person. So that's the trade-off. That is where you put, that's where you're that's the categories.
Yes.
I hope that.
Yeah. But, and also for me right now, I'm at the place where I actually don't need to do this. Like I actually don't need to do this in order to make money. I've done the work. I've come to the place where
it's easy.
It's easy, and I'm allowing it to be easy. But it has, and I told you this, like I've sat in inquiry and said, like, do I want to then just stop? But instead I've been asked to expand this and do more in terms of that, because I want to also still serve those that are coming after, and those who are walking the same path but has not yet reached this point. I want to inspire you, like the viewer, the listener, to know what's possible when you walk this path. That's why I've invited you in as a beautiful, shining example of what's actually possible, and a real example. Like I know your baby mystic is napping, not so much napping.
Not so much now. Dad is over there right now. I'm like, she's awake now.
Yeah, she's awake now, and so yeah, we're real, and I'm glad you brought up the daily readings. I am going to include a link to your Instagram profile, because everyone and their grandmother should go follow you.
Thank you.
And everyone and their grandmother should go buy your services, because you do have different services other than the copywriting. You do also have the most incredible readings and stuff that you do.
Thank you.
And it is just, like I said, the way that you blend the magical and the mundane, the practical with the spiritual is just, to me,
Thank you. That's very gracious. Thank you. I'm very humbled.
You're like, before we go, do you have any last words, or is there anything, has everything been said?
I feel, you want to talk about competition? Because I feel like you're like, let's talk about competition. Let's rap today. We are just going to rap it today.
Bring it. This is in competition.
I feel like, because, when you're first, when you have someone that's the first at something, they kind of set the standard. So I'm going to throw out a name up there that is very popular, and I'm going to say Danielle LaPorte, because she kind of was part of that wave of personal bloggers who became business owners, because they kind of were able to bring something that wasn't in the space before.
Yeah.
And then I feel she's pretty international, that a lot of people would know her stuff, Okay, so just because she did these things doesn't mean you can't do those things too. Obviously you can't use what she maybe has trademarked, But that doesn't mean you can't do your own planners. That doesn't mean you can't do your own universe that's very similar. Nothing is new under the sun. That's wisdom that is true. So don't see people as your competition. Just see them as your contemporaries. They're bringing something different. They're not you.
Yes.
No one owns tarot. No one owns astrology. No one owns magic. These are the most democratic and basic things that anyone has access to.
Yes.
You know, no one owns the words, the imagery. So play with it. Stand on our shoulders and go forward.
Yeah.
So, don't break the law. Don't plagiarize. Please don't.
Don't steal. Don't steal. Do your own stuff. But yeah. So the thing is, when I first, it's such an interesting point, because it's one that I also speak to a lot, because about the fear of competition.
Yeah.
I don't see people as my competition. I see them as colleagues and coworkers and collaborators, and ultimately we're creating a legion of people who are here to uplift and inspire. And if I carry, and I did, at one point carry the fear of competition within me, then that's out of resonance. That's out of vibration for me. So It was in order, I had to dissolve that through the expansion of love, is what I call it. Now, of course, like I said, I have EAM as well, and that's a powerful tool in doing that. But when I first started using the term spiritual business coach, that was in probably somewhere in 12, actually.
Yeah, it's 12, because I feel like that was a lot where everyone started getting turned on, and they were like, oh.
Yeah. But then I had a moment where it was like, I had to stop for a moment. And then I called myself spiritual business mentor, and then I couldn't, and I wasn't like, I was like wiggling back and forth, and then I stood in it. But today, because I've used that in my tags, in my SEO and all that, most clients that come to me tell me that they have Googled spiritual business coach, and then they've come onto my site. And a lot of them say that I've been, number one or on the first page or whatever. But more than that, what they say is that they resonate with what I have on my website. And so I don't say that because now when I first started, I didn't see anyone calling themselves a spiritual business coach. Today, I see a lot of people calling themselves a spiritual business coach, which in the beginning was like, ooh. And then now I'm like, great.
Okay. Yeah.
These people are very different from me. We bring different flavors. And so having that opportunity for you to actually choose and, pick and choose from where you want to go. Like, for example, your readings, your copywriting, all of that. There's going to be a million copywriters. There's going to be a million readers, but there's no one that does it just like you.
Exactly.
And that, I knew from the moment I hit your website and I saw your Instagram, I was like, I want that. I'm not sure what it is that I want, but I know that I want it. And how do I get it? Kind of thing, right? That was my how do I get it? And that's the feeling you want to invoke in people. And I say this not to bring fear. It may bring up fear in people.
But it's a real life concern.
Yeah. And
a real life concern.
It's through what you said in terms of the action. So keep taking aligned action, keep putting yourself out there, keep putting stuff, keep showing up, doing that. Because the whole idea of finding your purpose, I don't really ascribe to. I think our purpose is find you. It's through that, when you take those steps, all of a sudden you will realize that you found yourself standing smack in the middle of what you're meant to do and be here on this earth. And so, yes. So thank you for bringing up that in terms of competition. Yeah. To me, the word, I don't see.
Business is not a sport.
No.
It's not a sport. It's an art and a science to some degree, but not a sport.
And if we look at our purposes, having a vast, variety to choose from, because we're 9 billion people on the planet. I can't do 9 billion people. I am glad and thrilled that there are other people who are there to serve.
Yeah.
Because it's about the uplifting of our planet as a whole.
Yeah.
And every
absolutely
being and species. We just went
everywhere.
I thought this was going to be like a 30-minute thing. It is not.
Spirit was like, okay, we need to get these two together and we need to rap about all this stuff real quick.
So do you so that was the last one. Is there any final?
That's true. I feel truly, yes. I don't, like I said, don't worry. If someone else has the colors that you want, use your colors. If someone's using the tarot deck you just, again, don't break the law. If someone has a copyright or trademark, please respect that, because one day that may be you. So pay it forwards and backwards.
Yes.
But just no one owns those things, so just go with it. Don't be scared.
God, I love you. Okay, so I will, for those of you who have fallen deeply and madly in love with Aliza, I said it right. I was saying
the design of the accent.
Yeah, for those of you who have fallen as deeply and madly in love as I am, I will include in the show notes, there will be a link to the blah blah blah, and there you will find links to her Instagram, to her website, to her services, I think I wrote something also where I was raving about you, because I always am.
Thank you.
Everything will be in there. So Aliza, thank you for your time. Thank you for taking time away from Babynistic to be with us today.
No, it's my honor. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
I'm so grateful.
That is what I had for you in today's episode of Spiritual Business with Mariaestela. I hope it served you well. For all of the deets and the details, click the link in the description. And if you enjoyed this episode, support its message by sharing it with a friend or on social media, or leave me a comment or review. God bless.